So as you know, Easter is fastly approaching, which typically means a few more people might show up at our worship services. And so what do you do if you feel like you might run out of room or at least be a little too cramped? Well, today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to give you 5 reasons why you should consider adding an additional service for Easter.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian. Joining me is Dylan Dotson. And before I mention what we're talking about, if you're watching this, you'll see that we're wearing ties today.
Tie Tuesday.
Today's Tie Tuesday here in the office, so it bled over to the podcast.
So if you see us in ties in this and future episodes, it's because we record on Tuesday.
And if you listen to the podcast, maybe you should watch it, see what we look like in ties.
That's right.
Or look like in general. But anyways, today we're talking about 5 reasons that you should consider, or at least think about, adding an extra service for Easter.
Yeah, so Easter is coming. Yep. It's about a month-ish, a little bit more from when this episode's coming out. Easter's late this year. And you may be wondering, should I? Or maybe you're not even wondering if you should, and you should. So we want to give you some things to think about and to encourage you why you might want to add an additional service. So if you have 1 service, maybe try 2, or 2, maybe try 3. If you have 3 services, you may not be listening to this podcast because you're probably not a church plant. So here we go. Number 1, and this is really how they all start with. They really go on this one, so I want to be honest here, that if you are worried about space, you should consider adding a service. If you're worried about space at all. So let's just be clear. If you're sitting at a school, church, wherever you meet, and you're at 50% capacity, you probably don't need to add a service.
Right.
But if you're concerned at all about being packed or being overflowing, I would go to another services, because here's the thing. The only person that likes a packed space is the preacher.
Right.
Like, nobody likes going somewhere where there's no room, where they might have not to be sit. And also, it takes away a lot of the fun and excitement about Easter if you're worried and you're promoting, but you're worried you might not have enough space for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it'll take everything away. Now, you may be curious, how do I know if I should go? This will be our 3rd Easter as a church. And so what we did was really helpful was we looked at our average Easter attendance and our average Christmas attendance compared to what it is before that special day.
Right.
And we found that for Christmas and Easter for us, every single time it's been about 50 to 55% more of attendance on that day than the month or 2 leading up to it. So based on that math, last year we didn't have the math last year, but we added 1 service to our 2. We had 1 service at the time, we did 2 just on Easter.
Yep.
And this year, based on that math again, we're actually going to do 3 services instead of the 2 that we normally do. So count how many seats you have. I don't know if you should add 50%. I mean, that's just us. We're also in the South, so Easter still kind of means something. Other places it doesn't.
Right.
But if you have some previous data on Christmas or Easter, you can see what attendance what we see. And if that number is close to capacity or even slightly under, which we'll talk about in a second, but definitely if it's going to be more, go ahead and do 2 services, because there's nothing worse, or adding a service, than being worried the whole time instead of being excited about what God might do on Easter.
Yeah, if you're questioning it and being realistically questioning it, if you have a reason to question it, then odds are you probably need it. You're a smart person. You planted a church. You're thinking about planting a church.
You listen to this podcast.
You're a genius.
Yes.
So, most of us are realistic enough that you're not going to be thinking you need it if there's at least not a possibility. And so we would say err on the side of go for it if you think it's a possibility versus trying to play it safe and then end up being too packed.
So if you're erring on the side of go for it, if you think it might be too close or whatever, these next 4 are good reasons why you should add another service. So here's number 2. By doing this, it allows you to experiment with what an additional service will look like, because it's a one-time thing. People might expect Easter to look different anyway, so it's not like some random Sunday you just decide to do this. You already have the kind of expectation of we're going to try new things.
Right.
And so for last year, it was the first time that allowed us. We did Christmas Eve services on the evening, but we had never done Sunday morning 2 services. So it allowed us to see what 2 services was like. And it gives you the opportunity in a safe way to try an additional service just to see what it might feel like, get the kinks out, whatever. Because it's, it gives you the ability, because let's say in the future at one point you want to go to multiple services, but maybe you're not sure what times will work, you're not sure like how it's going to function. This gives you a way to just try it once and see how it goes.
And the good thing about this is you don't necessarily need everyone's permission, I guess is the right word, to do everything. So the reason to do this isn't to, hopefully everyone will approve of it and you shouldn't do it if they don't. But if it is sort of doesn't work out like we say it will, and you end up doing it, it's still it's a safe way to try it.
Right.
It's an easy way to explain. It's much easier to explain, hey, for Easter we think we're going to be much bigger, so we're going to go to 2 services or 3 services, than we're just going to go for it on this random Sunday. People will be more likely to accept that this is a special Sunday. Everyone knows Easter is higher attended.
Right.
And so you'll get more buy-in than if it's just you
Right.
want to try it a
Yeah, you have to like cast this big vision of here's why we're going to go to, like, it's Easter. So we're just going to try it. So it gives you the ability, if nothing else, just to experiment with what an additional service would be like with kids, with parking, so you can know for the future.
Yeah.
Number 3, kind of what we were just hinting at here, goes with number 2, but it allows you to remind people of the mission. So if you're at one service, especially if you're at one service, and maybe you've been at one service for a while, it allows you to, again, remind people about it's not about us and just being comfortable and us and just our preferences. It's about helping people meet Jesus and helping more people meet Jesus. And so it's a really easy way to say, hey, it's Easter. We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to potentially run out of room, or we don't want it to be so packed in here that like in the lobby, like people can't meet. We want this to be a good time.
Yeah.
And so, but more than that, it allows you to kind of inject some mission reminders into your people without, feeling like you're just trying to stage it or just trying to like, let's have a vision moment at the end of the service. It's like, no, we're going to 2 services or 3 services or whatever. And here's why. And so it gives you, again, a really easy way to not just remind people about the mission, but I think also get people excited.
Yeah. I think it allows you to remind people of the mission, but also in a way that's encouraging them that things are going well.
Right.
It's not like you have to remind them of the mission because we're declining or, hey, we really need to do a push for money or something like that. But we're growing. And this is a good thing. That means that we're on this mission, and what you guys are all doing is working. Because of you, the church is growing, and because of that, we need to go to another service.
Right. And 2, it's, especially whenever you go from 1 to multiple, once you're already at 2, people kind of are used to it. There's always that hesitancy of like, well, I'm not sure.
Right.
Even this allows them to try it once and realize it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And so, but even more than that, not just trying it, but again, allowing people to remind them about why you exist, why the church was planted in the beginning, saying we're going to 2 services and here's the mission, here's the why behind it, I think is really good for your people to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's number 4, and this might sound, this is practical church planning, so it is what it is. But it gives you extra promotion for Easter. And here's what I mean. So you already will be and should be talking about Easter and promoting it and all the different ways, word of mouth, social media, however that looks like for you, talking about on Sundays. But when you're adding a service time or changing your service times or whatever, but in this case, adding a service, it allows you to talk about it a lot without it feeling like, why we keep talking about this, right? Because you want people to know this Sunday is going to be different. And so you can talk about it more, you can post about it more, you can kind of get away with it, again, without it feeling like self-promotion, because you genuinely want people to know, hey, here are the times, so don't show up at the wrong time.
Yeah, and you can also, you're promoting in a different way. Everyone sees Easter promotion the month leading up to it, and it eventually becomes like white noise. I mean, you have to promote for Easter, but everyone's doing that.
Yep.
So being able to promote for something different, I think really helps you kind of stand out and maybe be a little more noticed.
Right. So it gives you extra promotion,
Yep.
Which is a great thing. And then number 5, and then we'll share some concluding thoughts. And this might be, again, this is assuming that you might need to go to 2 services. Again, if you're like at 50% capacity and you see an increase of, you expect a certain increase and that'll put you at like 70% seating capacity, you probably don't need.
Probably not.
So this is assuming that you might need it. So other than that, this might be the biggest one, is that it gets you and your leaders and maybe your staff out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Trying something new, trying something different. It can be just as easy as it can be for our people to get into a rhythm. It can be easy for us to get into a rhythm and not want to try new things.
Yep.
And again, we can't say it enough. Easter is nobody's going to get mad at you if you do 2 services and you didn't really need it. Like the first time we did 2 services was for our first Christmas service. And after the fact, we were like, yep, we didn't need that.
Right.
But like nobody was like, nobody cares.
Yeah,
It's
it wasn't
like,
an issue.
because everyone understands why we were doing it. And so it allows you, maybe you haven't tried something new in a while and you just need to feel the rush again of, like when you planted, of like praying and asking God to move and knowing it's out of your control, this is going to work or this is not going to work. So it's kind of like an easy and a safe way to get out of your comfort zone. And if for nothing else, it's just good for us to do that every once in a while.
Yeah, and doing this, unless you're at the point where it is absolutely necessary, in which case there's no reason for you to take our advice. You should just do it anyways. But if you're questioning if you should or not, this definitely is something that takes a good bit of faith.
Right.
I mean, this isn't something that is just a no-brainer. I think you have to actually have faith that it'll work out and that it's what God wants you to do. And so, yeah, I think being in your comfort zone in church or in church planning can get kind of dangerous. Yep. I mean, we can end up doing things the way that we want to do it in our own way. But doing something like this, if it's something that you can at least see that it's potentially necessary, is a great way to break that.
Yeah. So those are some things you can do. Now I want to give some practical tips, and then we'll finish here.
Yeah.
Here's what this looks like for us when we had one service, and I'll just share what it looks like for us now that we have 2 services and we're going to 3, just in case this helps you think through anything. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend if you have one Sunday morning service and you're going to say we're going to add a second one, that you don't just add another service without changing the first service time. So for example, we met at 10 o'clock. When we had one service. When we went to Easter, we changed it. We didn't do 10 o'clock and 11:30 or 8:30 and 10 o'clock.
Right.
We did 9:15 and 11. We intentionally changed the time so that, we had to promote it a lot. But also, if you just add a service time without changing your original one, no one's really going to that other one.
No one has a reason
You
to
have to give,
different.
you got to give people a reason to choose something, or else you'll have a good service and nobody.
Yeah.
And if you do that, adding a second service may not help you because everyone's going to the main one.
Yeah, true.
So if you have one service, don't do your original service time. Change them both completely so that you have to choose.
Yeah.
For us this year, since we have 2 services and we're going to 3, we're actually keeping our 2 services. It's a little bit more complicated, but this is just what we're doing, and we're adding a third. So right now we meet at 9:30 and 11, and we could have changed all of them, but to us it didn't make sense for us, and so we're just simply adding an 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, 9:30, and 11 o'clock. Now, here's how we're going to be sharing it with our people. Just so you know, maybe this will give you some advice. We don't necessarily need full kids ministry at 3 services, and it's a stretch. I mean, we're only almost 2 years old. We don't have a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's a stretch to get that. So here's what I'm going to be saying to our people. We're doing 3 services for Easter. Here's why. Tell the mission, which our people will be excited about. And here's what I'm going to say. If you call New City home, if you're a partner here, I want you to come to our 8 o'clock service. If you don't want to come to our 8 o'clock service, you have 2 outs. One, if you have kids. So we're only going to do nursery infants for 8 o'clock. But if you have kids of any age, you don't need to come to 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or if you're planning on inviting or bringing someone with you, then we don't want you to come to 8 o'clock. If you don't want to come to 8 o'clock, then you need to invite somebody.
Yeah.
To kind of just get don't come to 8 o'clock. That's why. If not, I want you to feel bad for not coming at 8 o'clock because you're taking a seat. Because again, for us, our 8 o'clock service, just to be honest, will probably not be that full, but we need those seats for our 9:30 or our 11. We will probably be out of seats at one of our services if we don't do 3, which again is one of the reasons why we just don't want to do that. We don't want to risk it. We don't want to be worried that Easter's coming and we're going to run out of seats. That's just not fun.
Yeah.
And so that's how we're doing it. Again, if you have one service, I would go to 2 services and make both services different. If you're at 2, like us, we're just adding an earlier one and telling people if you don't want to come to the early one, here's what we're going to ask you to do. And so, yeah.
Yep. I think part of it also is be honest with your people. Like you're saying, if you need people to go to a certain one, tell them you need them to go to a certain one. If you're changing your service times and you're not sure if it'll work, you don't necessarily have to announce everything from the stage, but tell some of your members or partners or whatever, hey, this is something new that we're launching, and be a part of it. Don't just do the same thing.
And we mentioned this before, but if you tell your people why, not just what you're doing, but why, and you tell them what they can do to make it happen, most people will be like, because people want to help. This is their church. They want to make a difference, and they oftentimes feel like they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So you tell them why you're making this decision. Don't just let them ask questions. It's okay. And then you tell them what they can do if they want to help this go well. I guarantee you'll have people that are excited about it.
Yeah, don't assume people know the right thing to do, because as we're going to 3 services, if we don't tell people we need you at 8 o'clock, I guarantee people won't come to 8 o'clock. Not because they're just tired and want to sleep in, but because they don't see that there's a need for them to come to it. They just think as long as they show, it's good.
They're not trying to be mean. They just don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. We're doing 3, and we're doing we're ordering bagels and doing big breakfast stuff for everybody for Easter as well. So
and that's good for everyone.
It's good for everyone. So hey, again, those are 5 reasons you should consider adding additional service. 1, if you're worried about the space. 2, it allows you to experiment about what an additional service will look like. 3, it reminds people of the mission. 4, it allows you to do extra promotion without feeling promotionable. I don't know if that's a word, but I just said it. And number 5, it allows you to get out of your comfort zone. So thanks for listening with us today. As always, you can go to practicalplanting.com to connect with us. Go to practicalplanting.com/questions. If you have a question you want us to talk about. And until next time, we'll be with you on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.